All right, so we'll get started here. Just go ahead and leave that screen on there. Greetings from Iowa. Before I retired, I was the naturalist with the Marshall County Conservation Board in Iowa. I really enjoyed sharing nature with preschoolers through senior citizens, and one very popular topic was monarch tagging. And whenever I'd give a program on monarchs, I would show the people this Audubon magazine. I don't know if you can see that, just covered with views of the monarchs down in Mexico. And I said, I want to go see that. So fortunately, two of the naturalists in Iowa decided to organize a trip, and I said, sign me up. Now, my daughter, who had been helping me tag monarchs since she was 7, and she was 16 at this time, she said, I want to go too. So it was a great experience for the two of us to enjoy together. So we're going to sit back and take a little armchair adventure into a magnificent monarch journey. And although this trip occurred 14 years ago, I still have wonderful memories of it. Now, whenever you see a monarch, whether it's tagged or not, you might wonder, where did this monarch come from? Now, go ahead and advance that again. It's going to take the monarch its whole lifetime, and for 6 Iowa naturalists, it was a journey of a lifetime. So, what is the lifespan of a monarch if it's going to take, the whole lifespan? Well, it depends on when you hatch out. So, if you were a monarch that hatched out in the spring through, say, mid-August, you're going to be surviving at most up to a month. Go ahead and click that again. And if you are hatching out in mid-August through the fall, then your lifespan is going to be about 9 months because you're the migratory population, whereas the 30-day monarchs were the reproductive population. No matter what your lifespan is, all the monarchs are going to start off with the egg. And of course, this is laid on the milkweed, the only food that they're going to eat. And then the egg stage is about 3 to 5 days, 3 to 5 days, and then you're going to hatch out. Now, there's 5 different instars for the caterpillars. Can you find all 5 of them in that photo there? Don't miss the little guy at the top. Now, after about a couple weeks, with the final molt of the largest instar, you're going to see the chrysalis become exposed, and it's really gorgeous with the green and then the gold dots on it. Now, at about, well, it's 10 to 14 days in this stage, but at one point, the chrysalis is going to become clear, and you can see the black and the orange of the monarch inside. And then that's going to tell you that in the next 24 hours, the adult is going to emerge. And of course, it'll need to just kind of hang and dry for a few hours before it's ready to fly off. So scientists are asking, why are we tagging monarchs? Well, people are asking why we're tagging monarchs, and scientists and citizen scientists have questions like, where do monarchs go in the wintertime? Okay. What's the range of the monarch population? Okay. And just how many monarchs are there anyway? So one of the things that the scientists discovered, and it wasn't until 1975, is that the monarchs east of the Rockies are all going down to Mexico for the winter. And they also discovered there's, millions of monarchs. So the Conservation Board, Marshall County Conservation Board, began tagging in 1999. And I would go into schools and help tag monarchs. People would come to the parks and tag. We might be tagging in our own backyards. And the lower left-hand picture is my daughter and I tagging and recording in our backyard. And the lower right-hand screen or photo is my daughter Megan's on the right-hand side there, still tagging monarchs. So how do you tag monarch? Go ahead and click one more time. Well, first you have to catch them. So in Iowa, we are going to be tagging usually, well, we're starting in August, but the big influx of the migrating monarchs are going to come into Iowa just right after Labor Day. So if you're tagging or wanting to catch the monarchs in the daytime, you need to head to the prairies or your pollinator garden, any place where there's nectar available. Now, if it's closer to the evening or early in the morning, you're going to want to go to the trees and capture some that are still roosting on the trees. So once you catch them, now you need to decide whether it's a male or female. I know those pictures are a little bit smaller. I've got a larger one here, and you can tell the males because they have a black dot on their hind wings on each side, and the females do not. They've got thicker veins, however. So once you have captured your monarch, you're ready to put your little ID sticker on, and these came from Monarch Watch, and perhaps Chery's going to delve a little bit more into these, so I'll just go fairly quickly. Go ahead. So your ID sticker has identification number on it and then where to contact, which is Monarch Watch. So go ahead. So I usually use a toothpick and attach that little sticker to the hind wing of the butterfly. Now, people always ask me, is that hard on the butterfly? I said, no, it doesn't make it fly in circles. They can still make it to Mexico. And then you're going to release your butterfly after you've recorded all the data. And then when the season's over, send your data sheet on to Monarch Watch at University of Kansas. Now, the next exciting thing besides catching the monarchs is watching for recoveries. So Monarch Watch is going to Mexico in the winter and collecting tags from the local people who have recovered them. Go ahead and click that one more time. So I always like to print out a certificate and give it to those volunteers who help me in the tagging. And each summer, or excuse me, each fall, I would go to Oakview Nursing Home, and I take some monarchs with me. Oh, go back. So I would go to Oakview Nursing Home, and I would bring some monarchs with me, and then let the residents there release the monarchs. And one of the monarchs that was found from the group that was tagged at the nursing home was recovered in El Rosario, Mexico. And on that certificate, it gives the distance of travel, and it was from Conrad, Iowa down to El Rosario was 1,632 miles. So that's like if you were to drive from New York City to Denver and take you about 27 hours to drive there, just to give you an idea of what that 1,600 miles is like. So that certificate then, or the recovered tags, brings up more questions like, well, where's El Rosario? Well, this is one of the about 12 monarch sanctuaries down in the mountainous areas between Mexico City and Morelia. Now you can see the monarch there, giving you another approximate location between Morelia and Mexico City. Now on this trip, we flew from Houston down to Morelia. Why don't you join us on a journey of a lifetime? Once that picture shows up, it'll be our crew of 18 participants. Okay, and a couple other. We're missing our second slide, but I'm just going to go right to this one here. This map shows you Morelia in the center there, and the big orange dot. So then we flew into Morelia, and then we needed to get acclimatized to the altitude. So instead of looking at monarchs directly right away, our guides took us to visit some tourist attractions. So we're going to be driving along that orange line to the west, stopping at archaeological site and some different towns, and spending the next night in the lower left-hand part of the map. And then later we're heading on the lower pink line back towards Morelia. And then you notice the pink lines east of Morelia. That's our actual journey of looking at the monarchs. So let's take a little naturalist log for Saturday and Sunday. We arrived in Morelia Saturday night, whisked off to the hotel, and the next morning we're off to the archaeological site called Zinzutzan, translates to place of the hummingbirds. So we saw hummingbirds, but in the upper right-hand picture there, we also saw the vermilion flycatcher, and it's neat how it's just blending right in with the flowers on the tree. Now, at this particular town, the handiwork in this particular town was all of woven straw materials, and excuse me, go ahead with the next slide. The next town we went to was featured their colorful table linens. And so we're in Pátzcuaro for lunch, and we're getting to know our group. participants as well as our guide. Now, Bill Calvert in the upper right-hand picture, he's been leading, Dr. Bill Calvert's been leading Monarch trips and other trips for 25 years at the time when we had our trip. And then Bonnie Chase was his partner. Very knowledgeable, both of them. The lower photo is my daughter Megan and I with two of the other participants from Marshall County. So our first stop now is the hacienda of Jose Luis Alvarez. Go ahead and click some more. There should be two more photos that pop up there. So at this particular habitat conservation project, this fellow was trying to promote an alternative crop. So the topography is just very unsuitable for farming and exposing the soil. So Jose was trying to promote a crop of trees. So farmers would be growing the trees, and not only does that provide a source of fuel for them, source of materials for building, but it's also providing habitat for the butterflies. So this project was very successful. He was providing like 1 million trees for farmers each year. The next stop was a national park, and the national park wasn't anything like I was expecting. Go ahead and advance. It's very relaxing walking along the tropical trails, and there was many waterfalls and streams running through the area. To me, it reminded me of being in a really large botanical garden. It was very relaxing. There should be one more slide to pop up, one more picture to pop up on that slide. Now, this was very interesting. How would you feel if a volcano emerged in your cornfield? That would be a little disheartening. That happened to a Mexican farmer back in 1943. Now you can see the volcano in the background there. 9 years later, this volcano erupted and engulfed the town. You can see what's remaining of a church steeple on the right-hand side there. And then you can see the lava field in the front. So the lava flowed and engulfed the town, as I mentioned. Go ahead and click one more time. Next, another picture will pop up there. The lava flowed through the church, and then it stopped just a few feet before the altar in that particular church. We spent several hours scrambling around looking at different things in this area. Okay, I'm sure you're ready to see monarch butterflies, and we were too. We left our lovely little hacienda here and jumped in the bus. Go ahead and click the next, there should be another picture pop up. And about 15 minutes down the road, the bus broke down. We're like, no. So they called for another bus. Of course, these Iowa farmers are trying to see if they can fix the bus while we're waiting. We were really resourceful. We just decided, okay, we're going to get off the bus. We'll look at other butterflies and birds and cattle wandering down the road while we waited for the next bus to pick us up. So we're a couple hours behind schedule. We've arrived back in Morelia, and now I want you to notice on the map the upper pink line going east and west. We're going to travel all the way to the east and then down a little bit south and west again. And so we are heading to the town of Sangueo and then going to the Sangueo colony. Our next colonies are going to be farther south from there. At Sangueo, after a nice lunch, we hopped in the back of 3 little pickup trucks. That's Megan and I in the back. And we didn't really know the other 2 couples that we were riding with, but after an hour on a dusty, bumpy road up the mountain, we shared some laughs and got to know these other 2 couples. So up the mountain, we're going to just a minute here. We had to pay our entrance fee for entering the Sangueo colony. And at 4:17 p.m., we saw our first monarch butterfly. Now, it was not as exciting because there wasn't multitudes of them, but it was exciting to see the first monarch butterfly in the area. So we stepped out of the back of the pickup trucks into the silence of the towering oyamel fir and pine trees. And it was later in the day. Remember, we were like 2 hours behind schedule. So there was a few monarchs still on the ground or fluttering around. Go ahead and click the next slide. But most of them had already flown back up into the trees to roost for the night. So you can see, especially on the right-hand side of the picture there, looks like little pine cones hanging in the tree. Those are actually small clusters of monarchs. Okay, the lower light level made it more difficult to see them, but we're still have the cameras rolling, and are taking in just the awe of the place. There was some of the better light coming in. You can actually see some of the orange of the clusters of monarchs hanging on the trees. There, now our guide said that there were 10 million monarchs in this colony at Sangueo. And National Geographic was actually in the area, camped and filming in this area. The forest floor was just soft and cushiony, and I think it would have been a great place to go camping. You know, you could say that you camped under millions of stars and millions of monarchs at the same time. Wouldn't that be cool? Okay, so now it's time to hop back in the back of the pickups and heading back down the mountain. Go ahead and click one more. We're headed down to Angangueo, which is an old mining town right in the heart of the butterfly sanctuary. So, and that's our little pink hotel there. So anytime you're going to be going to any of the colonies, you're going to pass through the town of Angangueo. And that's probably why we had to share the hotel with the policia. The police presence is there to help to curb the illegal logging going on in the sanctuaries. And this is really detrimental to the monarch populations, because the more trees you cut down, it changes the microclimate of the butterfly sanctuary and makes it more difficult for the monarchs to survive, especially if there's really cold temperatures. Okay, we have interesting modes of transportation here. Backs of pickup trucks, and now we're gonna crawl up into the back of the cattle truck. So we're gonna head out, go ahead and click. We're gonna head out the paved streets of Angangueo, heading up the mountain, and the road's gonna be changed into a dirt road, and just some great panoramic views of the countryside. There, now you can really notice the deforestation going on in these mountains. Of course, they're clearing clearing the land for farms, for homes, and of course they're using the wood for fuel as well. This is just before the beginning of the rainy season, and I happened to see this group of people out planting on this extremely steep hillside. And I thought to myself, well, I hope nobody falls down or drops something, because it's going to go clear down to the bottom of the hill there. Go ahead and click on the next slide. Another view of just how steep the area is, and you know, definitely not suitable for farming. And so you can see how important that habitat protection project was in helping to restore the trees. So we've come up in elevation. We are 9,872 feet here when we arrive at the soccer field. And so the kids were playing soccer. There was some gals there selling some snacks and some monarch handiwork. So now we're going to enter into the La Salud monarch colony. Our group is going to be divided in half, and then we're going to pick up two additional local guides to take us through the area. We were seeing some monarchs coming down to nectar on some of the flowering shrubs as we entered into the trail. And the monarchs are, as they warm up, they're going to come down the mountain in search of nectar and water. Okay, we're beginning to see some of the smaller clusters. Notice that most of them have their wings closed. In order to be able to fly, they need to warm up first. So you'll see them with wings closed. As they warm, they'll be fluttering more. And then as long as they're warm enough, which would be at least 55 degrees, then they can take off and fly. And you can see them hanging on both the Oyamel fir tree on the right and then the pine trees on the left. So we were just, again, enveloped by the stillness of the forest, just looking everywhere. That one looks a little distorted on my view, but anyway, we've got clusters of monarchs upon monarchs hanging from, there we go, hanging from the the trees here. And again, you know, from a distance, it looks like really large pine cones hanging there. You had to be careful where you walk because monarchs were dropping out of the sky. And what was going on, you can go ahead and go to the next slide, is the beginning of the mating. And so the male butterflies would grab a female, they'd fall to the ground, and then the male needed to carry the female up to a perch in order to begin mating. Now, all I'm going to say is hats off to the next generation of monarch butterflies. Now our guides have led us up to an area just above 10,000 feet. We're settled in on this little hillside, and it was a cool morning, so we are watching huge clusters of monarchs. So go to the next slide. We're just all sitting very quietly, just in awe, trying to figure out where to look because we were just surrounded by huge clusters. Check those out. Just monarch upon monarch upon monarch. And that was our view. Where do you look first? Go ahead and click the next one. Because as they warmed up, they would just explode into the sky, and you would even hear the rustling of the wings together, like the rustling of leaves. They were just so many of them together. It was so exciting. You know, you just didn't know which one should I be watching, which cluster is gonna take off next. It was just fascinating. Here's the perfect Christmas tree for a monarch lover. How would you like to have your Christmas tree with live monarch ornaments all over it? And it gives you a good view too of the two types of trees in the forest, the Oriental fir with most of the monarchs on them, and then the one of the species of pine tree in the back there. Okay, look at that flurry of activity. I mean, I could have just stayed there forever. And the guide said, okay, it's time to leave. And we're like, what? How could you leave all this activity? But they said, no, we need to go down to the stream. There's more butterflies down at the stream. So we're like, okay. So we're heading off down the trail. Okay, we're headed off down the trail. What are we going to find next? One of the naturalists in our group spotted this tagged monarch, and we're like, oh, this is great. So we're trying to zoom in so we could see the sticker and find out what the code was on it. So we contacted Monarch Watch. Now this is fascinating because here's an Iowa group, and guess where this monarch was tagged? That's right, back in Iowa. So both of us had journeyed from Iowa down here to Mexico. That was pretty cool. Okay, so we're down at the stream now, and here our guide told us to watch for the cloud effect. Well, what's the cloud effect? He said that whenever a cloud would block the light from the sun, you'll notice the butterflies are going to rise up from the stream and fly to a perch. And what's happening, that's a protective response, because the butterfly doesn't want to get stuck on the ground at night, and they don't know whether this was a temporary darkness or it was the beginning of nightfall. So they don't want to get stuck down on the ground at night. It's going to be too cold for them to fly up to a perch, and then they're going to be susceptible to predators of these adult monarch butterflies. So the cloud effect, again, is a survival mechanism. So here's the fantastic alfresco dining with the monarch butterflies. We're eating our sack lunch down by the stream. And I don't know if you can see it well enough in the photos there, but butterflies are just floating all around. And we had each group had their little pictures taken with the butterflies flying around. My daughter Megan and I wanted to take a closer look, do a little bit more exploring. So we walked upstream just a little bit to go with this. This is what it looked like looking down inside that stream bed. Oh. Look at the density of the monarchs clustered in there. So you're wondering, well, why are they in the stream? So the density, all the monarchs are there because they're seeking moisture from the creek there. But it's just fascinating. So we're headed down the trail again in the forest, and again just the stillness of the forest. We were the only people in the woods. So what are we going to see next? What I happened to see up ahead, another swarm, huge swarm of monarchs was flying in from the left and enveloped our friend Pat, who was up at the beginning of our line, and they were just swirling around and around Pat. I bet it was just this magical experience for her, and you can see that on her reflected on her face there. And so people took turns standing in what was left of the swirl of monarchs. I had my turn too, standing in the monarchs, what was left of the monarchs there. Okay, when we got to this part of the hike, I'm like, this spot looks a little familiar to me. And I'm like, oh no, have we come like full circle and it's time to leave? Well, what I found out was, yes, we were, beginning to leave the forested area. We had been uh, enjoying the walk in the woods for like 4.5 hours, and it was just an amazing experience. As we were still walking in the area, we came to this meadow area. And if you look in the area behind Megan and I, you can see, kind of a darkened area, and then you can see little spots of orange. All of those are monarch butterflies, and they're puddling on the moist grass, the moist area in that little meadow. And I got down on my stomach to take a photo of the monarchs at this level. Isn't it amazing how different they look at this particular angle? It also provides an interesting angle of the photographers as well. So as this lone monarch that you can see in the screen there is flying down the valley, just like us heading northward, I had to stop and thank our guide for such fabulous adventure. It was just amazing and magical. And our guide Bonnie had said that since we were the only people in the woods or the forest at this time, it was a whole different experience than what we would have gotten had we gone to El Rosario or more one of the other a more touristy sanctuary. So we were really blessed to be able to go to this La Salud colony. So these monarchs are beginning their northward journey. And this is a map from Monarch Watch showing you that from Mexico, these monarchs are flying up to the southern states. Now remember, these monarchs that overwintered in Mexico, they're nearing the end of their 9-month lifespan. So their job now is to find the milkweed in Texas and these southern states and start laying eggs. So now you can really see the importance of providing milkweed for these monarchs, because these are the ones that have to repopulate the rest of their range. So once the next generation hatches out in the southern states, they're going to fly a little bit farther north. Those kids are going to fly a little bit farther north, and it's the grandkids of the overwintering monarchs that we get here in Iowa, and we'll be seeing those generally in early May. Now you can see the range of the monarchs goes farther north up into the southern edge of Canada, and that's their limit. And you can hopefully you can read that. I'm not sure if you can. That's the limit of the monarch, because that is as far north as their the monarch, excuse me, the milkweed grows. So without milkweed, you're not going to have monarchs. So you can see the importance of down in Texas and the southern states, we've got to provide milkweed so we can start that regeneration of the next generations. So we're winding up our journey here in Mexico. Our last stop is a beautiful little resort area called Agua Blanca, nestled down in the valley. We got some beautiful purple jacaranda trees. And the next slide that pops up will be a giant yellow fig tree. And we're wandering, the bus couldn't make it down to the valley there, so we were wandering up and down the valley road. Then we just enjoyed resting on the veranda after all of our experiences. So, you know how naturalists are always into exploring and learning new things. So we explored waterfalls. We got to watch on the right-hand side there, you see the zebra long-winged butterfly, and they have a very interesting communal roost that occurs each evening, where they have to find an appropriate vine that's hanging over the stream, and then it takes them about a half hour to get all settled on the branches there. So that was an interesting observation. And early birding trip, more waterfalls. And on the right-hand side, we're looking up inside this cave at a colony of fruit bats. Okay, so we're heading back to Morelia, but first we're going to stop for lunch at the Titanic. Wonderful little restaurant. Go ahead and click one more time, with a deck to observe the lake beside it. But the best part is dessert. I'm sure many of you will agree with me on that. Have you ever had fruit-flavored ice cream served in the fruit shell? We got pineapple and coconut and orange there. Very delicious. And one of the interesting things is to see how prevalent the monarch is in the state of Michoacan. Here we have monarchs on the license plate, on taxi cabs, and even a school kindergarten there named La Monarca. So that shows us that the people of Mexico love the monarch butterflies, and I do as well. So I'm going to keep my eyes open for monarch butterflies, and I hope you will too. So that concludes my presentation, and we'll turn it back over to Robert and to Chery.
Hi, everybody. I'm Chery Brummett. For those who don't know me, Texas Master Naturalist of class of 2022. I'm going to talk today about my tagging adventure last year. It was my first year, so there was some learning curve going there. So there's some things that I do that are a little bit different than what Diane did, but everybody does their own way, so it's not really a big deal. But last year I participated in the Monarch Watch tagging program. It's an initiative that obviously she had told you about that, to learn more about the monarchs. And as a citizen, as Texas Master Naturalist. So with the Monarch Watch, a nonprofit, they actually train you, and it gives you everything that you need to know about what to do and how to do it. And afterwards, there's a database that you can look up all the tags that have been recovered, which is exciting to see if yours has actually been recovered or not. And when you do tag, you have to wait until the latitude. If you see how it is there, it's when your latitude is that time, that's when you have to tag. So in the fall, they want you to tag in the fall, and they give you a time frame to start and a time frame to stop. And ours was September to November, the end of November. And they don't want you to do it before then, because they want to know where the monarchs are going and where they came from and their size and all the things that they gather, all the information they gather from those tags. And so they want you to wait, and they don't, if you order a tag today, for instance, if you order a tagging kit today, they won't mail them to you until it's time for your region to actually tag. Pretty close to it, a month or two before they'll give it to you. And what you get is the tags. Those are the tags, and you have to put it on the disco cell, which the one that's pointed to obviously gives you directions there like that too. But it also has information online that you can find out how to do it exactly if you are confused by it. And I use hemostats. It's not really that big of a deal, but for me it was easier for me to hold them like that. And you could use a toothpick as well. The object is not to touch the sticker, because by touching it, you're going to risk the fact that it's going to fall off. They spent many years trying to get the adhesive right, and they finally got it where it will stay on it without hurting the butterfly, and it will last. And there we go. She's off on her journey. And these are the sheets that you will use. The one in the middle, you can see where I handwritten. I started out handwriting the numbers, and it's easy to mix them up when you're in the tags. So I went ahead and I typed all mine up, just so it was easier for me to keep track of what tag I was, at that time. So I wouldn't mix it up, basically. But afterwards, there's 3 ways you can submit it. You can submit it with that data sheet that I just showed you, or they have a data spreadsheet that you could use if you wanted to, which is the way I ended up doing it. spreadsheet was easier for me, but maybe not for others. And they also have a Monarch mobile app that as you're tagging, you can put them in, which is very convenient for those who like to use apps. And it's on the Monarch website. You can see I got it broken down to 2, but that is one whole page. And all you have to do is click on the Monarch tagging, and it'll take you to all the information you need. And then afterwards, around March into April, they'll start showing the tags that have been recovered. And you just look up your tag number and see if yours has been recovered or not. And they're still bringing them in. So the counting hasn't been done yet. It's still continuing right now. So I had 2 that were recovered, but they were recovered in South Padre Island. So they probably caught it a few days after. One of them I know was 4 days, it hung around South Padre, and somebody else spotted it, and they reported it. And another one, they found one outside of the birding center. I don't know if it was alive or dead. It doesn't really say, but those are the 2 so far that I've gotten. Hopefully some more. We'll see. But as you can see, last year, since they're still in tags right now, they don't have final totals for this year. But for last year, they had 900 monarch tags were recovered. And this is actually this year. They've counted how many they have. And this year they have 2.21 hectares, which is a 22% decrease of the monarch population. And you can see throughout the years how it has gone down and decreased, gone up and down, depending on what events are happening there. But to get the tags, there is a fee, but it covers their cost and so forth. So there's a fees listed there, and it helps for running it. And for those in Mexico who are looking for the tags, they pay them $5 a tag. So it's a lot of money to them. They put them in their wallets, and when they get a whole bunch, then they turn them in to Monarch Watch, and Monarch Watch pays them for it. So it's well, they're dead. Most of the time they're dead. Yeah. Some aren't dead. Some take pictures, and you can see through a picture what it is. Yeah, they didn't know it. They didn't state that. Yeah. I'm sorry, they didn't state that. And for those who don't know, a hectare is 10,000 square meters, 2.47 acres, which is almost 2 football fields. And that's how they measure them. Out of the ones that I've tagged, this is what I had. Obviously, male, female. You can see what I have here. I had a total of 93, and most of them I tried to stick within South Padre Island and then my backyard, Brownsville, my backyard. So I got 8 in my backyard, but the rest most of them were from the birding center. They have an awesome setup there now. Javi has put all kinds of volunteers here. I will say more volunteers here. Put some great butterfly gardens out there for birds too. But it really paid off, and it's doing really well. So a lot of monarchs at South Padre. Okay, so when I was actually tagging, I noticed a very bad trend, and that is, everybody knows, lack of habitat for these butterflies. There isn't any. When I was looking for them, I couldn't find the habitat. So it kind of sparked me, to make a difference for the monarchs somehow. Can we do something in our area? And I talked to some other people who felt the same way I did, and we started this pollinator project to help spread and educate anything we can to the community on how to, set up gardens or get resources to find out what plants to use. We're trying to encourage native, and definitely native milkweed if we can get them into milkweed for sure, because we know how important that is. So our project is helping others as well, and this is when our group got together and we trying to help Jose get his monarch garden going. We helped with debris, and then we made a natural barrier, thanks to those who helped, Susan and Alicia and Laurel. And then you just heard already that we did the Monarch Festival. And in the meantime, we were promoting our pollinators and TMN and giving the kids had a good time with the coloring pages, but we would always corral the moms and dads to the end of the table and tell them about pollinators and about our gardening and how important it is. And I had a plant with one of a caterpillar on it, and that was the big hit. Everybody wanted to see the caterpillar. It wasn't a very big plant, and the caterpillar ate a whole lot of it while I was there. But it really intrigued a lot of the kids. They enjoyed it, and the parents too. But it was a really eye-opener to a lot of people, not realizing that they only lay eggs on milkweed. So, you know, plugging the milkweed really helps, you know, our monarch population. So then, you know, our goal is just to like I said, to raise awareness in the area and to help them understand the importance of native planting and how we should help the monarchs. And in the process, we're going to help all the pollinators. So come join us. We need some more people who are like-minded, who want to help. You don't have to always physical. We need people mentally, and those who are educated in plants and anything that would contribute to this. We could really use some help. And there's our email address if you want to be part of our email. I will send you any updates that come out. In the meantime, we have a Facebook page as well, and you can find any updates on that as well. So that's it.